Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is my fourth video now and I'm super thankful for the support the community has given me for these videos and for my website. The topic of 1920s Uruguayan football won the poll that I hosted on my Instagram. This era of football was one that was dominated by both Argentina and Uruguay. The 1920s and early 1930s in particular saw Uruguay win 3 world championships. Similar to past videos, I'll provide some background of the era from a football history context. Then we'll look at the legends that made the era possible, along with the items in the hobby that can be obtained for these players. The first hobby item can already be seen in this first slide, the 1924 AN Paris postcard featuring the Uruguayan national team in the studio is gorgeous and an example of fantastic vintage photography. This card is from France and was made for the 1924 Olympics. There's another card in this set as well that features the Uruguayan national team celebrating in the stadium after winning the final. Finding these cards has become increasingly hard. So now we'll look at the Uruguayan Golden Era. So the Uruguayan Golden Era can be loosely defined as having run from 1916 to 1935. The beginning is the 1916 Copa America success, and the end, in quotation marks, is in 1935, although some would argue it runs to 1950 when they won their second World Cup. During this era of football, both Argentina and Uruguay were dominant forces on the global stage. This was most noticeable when Uruguay and Argentina were the finalists in the 1928 Olympics and the 1930 World Cup. The main players for the squad during this era included Nasazzi, Cea, Scarone, Petrone, Andrade, and Castro. The Olympics became one of the earliest examples of a world championship for football. The 1924 and 1928 Olympics are classified as world championships by FIFA. The Olympics quickly became a platform for Uruguay and Argentina to showcase their nation's incredible footballing ability, and Uruguay's incredible play style and flair turned them into fan favorites among Europeans. Andrade in particular quickly became a superstar and a first of a kind for a footballer of that era. During the entire course of the Golden Era, Uruguay would earn a huge amount of silverware. This includes 7 Copa Americas, 2 Olympic championships, and 1 World Cup. Uruguay would never go on to achieve the same heights of success, and on the next slide we'll look at the legends that made this era possible. So the notable legends of this era of Uruguayan dominance that we'll be covering in this video and including their, hobby items will be Jose Nasazzi, Jose Leandro Andrade, Pedro Cea, Hector Castro, and Hector Scarone. These players have some stunning items that can be obtained for them from the 1920s, but to come across these items is extremely difficult. This video will focus on some of the earliest stickers or cards for each respective player. I'd like to give an early thank you to Al from El Rey Collection, as a lot of the stickers from this video are scans of his that I've been able to use on the website to provide as a resource for collectors. I'll add a link to his YouTube channel and to his Instagram, as I find it to be an incredible resource for vintage collectors. The first player we're going to look at is Jose Nasazzi. Nasazzi is regarded by many as Uruguay's greatest footballer of all time. He was an incredible leader, and such leadership qualities earned him the nickname of El Gran Mariscal, or the Great Marshal. From the center back position, he was able to dominate play and lead the team. Nasazzi is well known for being the captain of the Uruguayan national team throughout its golden generation, which saw them win the 1930 World Cup, the 1924 and 1928 Olympics, and the 1923, 1924, 1926, and 1935 Copa Americas. Nasazzi is among the most decorated international players of all time. On an individual level, Nasazzi was an immense player who was a serial winner. He was known for performing when his team needed it the most. This is proven when looking at his individual achievements. Nasazzi was the MVP of the 1930 World Cup and the 1923 and 1935 Copa Americas. His contributions to Uruguayan football are immeasurable, and to this day his legacy for Uruguay cannot be topped. Nasazzi's rookie year in terms of the hobby items is believed to be 1924. There are several items that can be found in this year, and on the screen here we can see the quote-unquote rookie card from the 1924 Cigarrillos Super Set featuring Nasazzi at his hometown club Bella Vista. There is a possibility there could be an earlier item than this, but as of yet it hasn't been discovered, at least to my understanding. And continuing with the 1924 cards, there is a Nasazzi in the 1924 Chocolates Eduardo P set, which is from Spain. This card depicts Nasazzi posing in front of his team and highlights the fact that he is the captain of the squad. From 1924, the cards seem to jump to 1928. One of the great card designs that can be found is in the 1928 Cigarrillos Crack cards from Uruguay. The ornamental border really highlights a young-looking Nasazzi. This one was made around the same time that Uruguay won their second World Championship, which was the 1928 Olympics. Another 1928 card for Nasazzi can be found in the 1928 Apiario Iris set. There is minimal information about this set, but the set does contain some of the best portrait shots. Of the three sets, my favorite has to be the 1928 Cigarrillos Crack with the ornamental frame around the portrait shot. If anyone has any information about any of these sets, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear more information about anything Uruguayan cards. The next player we'll be looking at is Jose Leandro Andrade. So Andrade is considered one of Uruguay's greatest players of all time as well. He was nicknamed the Black Pearl and played as a wing half, which would be the equivalent to a defensive winger or a wing back in today's game. Andrade had a very dynamic, fast, and technical play style that was extremely uncommon during the time. Andrade was the earliest world superstar of football in that era. His attractive way of playing football had European fans desperate to find any way to watch him play live during his tours in Europe for the Olympics. Andrade was so influential from wing half that he was able to win a player of the tournament from that position in the 1926 Copa America. With the national team, Andrade found immense success and won many trophies, including being a 2-time Olympic champion, a 1-time World Cup champion, and a 3 times Copa America champion. Alongside Jose Nasazzi, Andrade was a staple of the golden generation of Uruguayan football. He was capped 34 times and scored 1 goal. In terms of the domestic league, Andrade played on both sides of the Peñarol and Nacional divide during his career, and he was able to become a 3 times Uruguayan champion. A remarkable thing about Andrade was his ability to break through color barriers. During his career, he faced countless incidents of racism, and through his perseverance and mental strength and incredible footballing ability, Andrade was able to become the first black international player at the Olympics when he participated in the 1924 Olympics. The image on the left is of what is believed to be Andrade's rookie sticker or rookie card from the 1924 Cigarrillos Super set. Nasazzi's rookie can also be found in the same set, as was pictured earlier. This one has Jose Leandro Andrade at Nacional during the early part of his career. The black and white portrait is stunning. Any card from this set is extremely difficult to find, let alone the legends. And the next slide will cover some of the other notable Andrade cards. On this slide, we can see 3 other notable cards for Andrade. We have the 1928 Apiario Iris, 1930 Los Andes, and 1930 El Titan. All of these cards are portrait shots of Andrade. The 1928 Apiario Iris features a different photo than the other 2 cards. The portrait is black and white, and it only labels his name with no reference to his club or on the shirt that he's wearing. The 1930 Los Andes and 1930 El Titan both feature the same stunning image of Andrade in his Nacional kit. Over the last year, we have seen the 1930s Los Andes version of Andrade's cards sell for a significant amount. In the past, it was Nasazzi that would clearly be the most sought after of the legends in the 1920s Golden Era, but recently we have seen Andrade surpass Nasazzi on many occasions in auctions for similar cards. A constant that can be seen across Uruguayan cards is the consistent use of portrait shots and simplistic design. The third player that we'll be looking at is the main striker of the golden generation of Uruguay's national team, Pedro Cea. Pedro Cea played 26 times for Uruguay for the national team and scored 13 goals. With the national team, Pedro Cea became an incredibly decorated football, winning the 1930 World Cup, the 1924 and 1928 Olympics, and the 1923 and 1924 Copa America. During the 1930 World Cup, Pedro Cea was Uruguay's top scorer and scored crucial goals on their way to the World Cup trophy. At the domestic level, Pedro Cea would become a 2 times Uruguayan champion when he was playing for Nacional in Uruguay. He was nicknamed the Olympic Equalizer for his incredible ability to score crucial equalizing goals at major tournaments. He scored the equalizer in the World Cup final and scored the equalizer in the semifinals of both the 1924 and 1928 Olympics. On the screen, we can find what I believe is one of the earliest cards for Pedro Cea from the 1920s Chocolates La Suiza set. These cards are very rare, and there is minimal information on the set as a whole. The back of these cards is blank, therefore it leaves very little information to try to even guess as to when the card was produced. If I were to guess, I think it'd be like in the earlier half of the 1920s. The Cea card here is very gorgeous and features an excellent shot of him in the jersey. On this slide, there are 3 other cards that we can see. Here they're from the same set as the other 3 cards that we went over for Jose Andrade. The cards included on the screen here for Pedro Cea are his 1928 Apiario Iris, 1930 Los Andes, and 1930 El Titan. Compared to Andrade and Nasazzi, Pedro Cea's cards tend to sell for cheaper. Unfortunately, people don't seem to fully recognize the importance that Cea had for the successes of the 1920s and 1930s Uruguayan squad. These cards are generally very rare. When they are found, they are definitely worth taking. The 4th player that we'll be looking at is Hector Castro. Castro was a player who was crucial in the Golden Era for Uruguay due to his incredible goal-scoring ability. Castro was nicknamed El Manco due to the fact that he had a missing arm. He lost his arm at the age of 13, but it didn't seem to hinder him on the field. Castro became an exceptional goal scorer at both the club level and international level, scoring 18 goals in 24 games for Uruguay and 149 goals in 231 games for Nacional. Alongside his teammates, Castro became a highly decorated player for Uruguay, going on to become a 1-time Olympic champion, a 2-times Copa America champion, and a World Cup champion. Castro contributed greatly to these successful campaigns, but no contribution would be greater than the game-winning goal he scored in the World Cup final to seal the match 4-2 in Montevideo. The earliest card for Hector Castro that I could find was an image of this card here from 1930. It was the El Titan. It features Hector Castro in the iconic Nacional kit. This one's absolutely stunning, and I just love how it features Castro in the Nacional club kit. It is an absolutely gorgeous portrait shot as well. On this slide, there are 2 other stickers that can be found for Hector Castro. These ones are from later in his career and were made retrospectively to commemorate the Olympic Championships and the 1930 World Cup. Little is known about the 1933 Album Deportivo number 1 overall, but it is known that there are stickers that have different color backgrounds and stickers that feature players that have won the Olympics and World Cup. The 1932 album El Deportista, the one on the right, has more information about it, and there's a full album scan on my website, which I will link below. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any earlier cards or stickers for Hector Castro, but I'm quite certain that there are some out there. It's just a matter of finding them or having them unearthed at some point. The final player that we'll be looking at today is Hector Scarone. So Hector Scarone was an incredibly gifted inside forward that earned the nickname El Mago, which means the magician. This was due to his incredible technical and dribbling abilities. At the club level, Scarone is often considered the greatest Nacional player and legend, as he was pivotal in their dominance throughout the early era of Uruguayan football. Scarone won 21 trophies with Nacional, which included 8 national championships. Scarone was a prolific goal scorer and scored 301 goals in 369 appearances for Nacional. For the national team, Scarone was just as instrumental. He won 4 Copa Americas, 2 Olympic championships, and 1 World Cup. He was Uruguay's top international goal scorer until the 2010s, when his record was broken. Scarone was one of the senior members of the squad, as he had made his international debut in 1917, meanwhile most of the World Cup winning squad debuted in the 1920s. His goals led Uruguay to immense success, and his legacy for Uruguay will never be forgotten. On the left of the screen is one of Scarone's earliest cards, which is from the gorgeous 1928 Cigarrillos Crack set. It is highly likely that there is an earlier card for Scarone out there somewhere, but I've not been able to find it. If anyone has the images, I would greatly appreciate if you could share the images. It would be fantastic to see any earlier set that features Scarone. Some other notable cards that can be found for Hector Scarone are the 1920s Chocolate Suiza and the 1930s Los Andes, 1930 Los Andes. These sets have been featured earlier as they are the sets that feature Uruguay's most prominent players. Both of these cards are absolutely stunning and would be amazing in any collection. If there are any other cards from any other players that you feel should be included, please name them and post them in the comments. I'm always interested in learning about new sets and cards, and just absolutely interested in hearing other people's opinions. And that concludes today's video. Thank you for tuning in and taking the time to watch this video. I hope you're able to learn something in regards to the hobby, in regards to Uruguayan legends. For information on the sets discussed in the video, please check out my website. I will add a link to it in the description. I also have a Patreon set up to help support the website and the documentation efforts for vintage soccer sets and albums. Also, make sure to check out Al's channel, which will be in the description as well. Thanks once again for tuning in, guys, and until next time.